Welcome in. This is the Second Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and we are halfway home at Pebble Beach. We're going to get you set up for the weekend, which looks to be a little, oh boy, troublesome in terms of weather. Joining me to break it all down, he's there looking out his window as we speak, Mark Immelman. Hello, Mark.
Hi, boys. Welcome to my hotel. I'm in the lodge at Pebble Beach, which is kind of schwanky, but it's nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're right. Outside, look, Wednesday was horrid. Got it got about 3/4 of an inch of rain. Yesterday was picture perfect. Barely a breeze. It kicked up some in the afternoon. Today was lovely in the morning. Then it kind of got not foggy, but overcast. And now it's sort of chilly and the wind's up a little bit. So you can sense that weather's coming. I spoke with Gary Young, the lead PGA Tour official, yesterday, and he said there'll be some rain on Saturday nights, and then throughout the day, but intermittent on Sunday. They're just hoping it doesn't turn nastier. So we should be fine tomorrow.
Okay, fair enough. Greg Immelman is...
Greg
Immelman. I am rusty as rusty could be. Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Gregors.
Well, it almost really elevated my status in the game, almost, to be an Immelman.
Another Immelman brother.
Hey.
Another one. For some reason, this one doesn't have an accent.
You'd be the youngest, wouldn't you? Yeah, you'd be the youngest.
Yeah. You'd be the
Yeah,
youngest
I might be a son. Who knows?
You're the baby.
Fun day of golf out there on the Monterey Peninsula today. Looked like the weather was just spectacular. I know you said a little dicey, Rick, for Sunday, but I mean, that's what we all want to see, isn't it?
Well, let's just get right to it. I'm obviously no meteorologist. I'm looking at the forecast. Monterey County Station, right there. Tomorrow seems good. Overnight and into Sunday, and then kind of throughout Sunday is rain up to 1.5 inches with wind sustaining at 20 some odd miles an hour, gusts bigger than that. Monday doesn't look very good. 1 inch of rain on Monday. Tuesday's got 1 inch of rain. Wednesday's got 0.5 inch of rain. I mean, Greg, we have seen this story before. It was just 2 years ago. Wyndham Clark wins the Pebble Beach Pro-Am in a 54-hole shortened event because they could not finish this golf tournament due to weather.
Yeah. So you're saying we're going to get hurt again. But I'm seeing on the PGA Tour site, it's saying, 1/4 inch of rain on Sunday. Definitely windy. I love the wind finder site. I was looking at that.
Why are so many forecasts different?
I don't know.
Depends what model they've all got a model that they look at.
But there must be the best model.
Okay,
what's the best one?
In my experience, it comes from the PGA Tour guy. And if the PGA Tour guy says a storm's arriving in 15, honestly, they do. It's crazy how solid these dudes are because they basically take the average of all the models, if I understand correctly.
Oh, the aggregate.
And if Gary Young says to me, it's going to be raining, but intermittent throughout the day. So I'm like, is this sinister? And he goes, we should get it done. Then I'm going with his word.
Gary Young, Greg, is the world's leading meteorologist.
I want to just tell you this story.
Okay.
Last week, ahead of the Phoenix Open, I always do a little weather research. Like I said, I look at the wind finder, and I'll look at the PGA Tour weather forecast too, because to Mark's point, it's very accurate. But early in the week, it's not detailed like hour by hour. So I'm looking for a potential wave advantage or something like that. Anyway, I'm like, winds in Phoenix are going to be less than 15 miles an hour all week. Shouldn't be a big deal. Well, I see this meteorologist who I cannot think of his name, but he puts out these extremely detailed weather forecasts that had a microclimate in Phoenix where winds were going to be at some points like gusts upwards of 40 miles an hour. And it was coming down from the mountains, and he couldn't quite tell if it was going to hit the golf course, but it was very close to the golf course. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my forecasting couldn't be more wrong. I'm like, there's no wave advantage, blah, blah, blah. Turned out it didn't hit, but I was like, I've never seen anything like this. There's a microclimate coming in that could have 40-mile-an-hour gusts. Where is this coming from? So I've been, I've kind of got the yips going with my weather forecasting. I'm just nervous I'm missing something.
Hey, Rick, I love to watch your face when Greg is delivering his diatribes because you're like, I can see you thinking, and then you're like, whoa. The emotions you go through are quite intense.
I mean, he takes you through such a journey. You know, he set me up for a microclimate, and then it never came through, and you know, it was quite the roller coaster. But let's assume we'll get this thing all wrapped up on Sunday, and everybody will be happy pappy. And there was probably nobody happier out there than Harris English today, Mr. Mark, because he shot the round of the day, a 9 under 63 around Pebble Beach. And it was, as you could probably imagine, a bogey-free round with those circles just scattered all over that scorecard. And it's been a very solid start for Harris English here in 2026. T27, T22, T28 in his 3 starts. And now he's got a good look at this one on the weekend.
He does, and I got to tell you, ordinarily around Pebble Beach, the rounds, or all the good rounds I've been privy to in all the years I've been coming here, they are sort of set up by a really clean start through the first 7 holes. Because if there is an underbelly to this golf course, it's 1 through 7. 1's a shortish 4, then you've got 2 is a reachable 5, then 3 is a short 4, 4 is short. 5's a hard par 3, 6 is a par 5, then 7's the short 3. So you can get going quickly. We saw Chris Cotterick do that in round 1 around here. And so the way he cobbled it together with that fast finish like he did on the back 9, that's a little out of the ordinary. But suffice to say that with the weather like it was today, if you were on the money, you can take advantage of Pebble Beach, because all the players that I talked to after the rain we got on Wednesday, and they took basically 3/4 of an inch of the golf course here. Other parts of this Monterey Peninsula took more, so this golf course escaped it some. They were like, there's minimal rough, which I noticed. I walked the course with Frank Nobilo yesterday morning. There's minimal rough. The greens are quite receptive. So there's no really little fright factor to the golf course. Even if you're in the rough, you can get enough on it to stop the ball on the greens with them being receptive if you're controlling distance. So it was there to be had. And if you played badly, it was on you. The greens were as pure as I've seen them. So if you get it going kind of like he did, you can take advantage. And clearly that's what he did.
Well, that's the interesting part about this, Greg, is you don't really see 5 in a row or a stretch where we've seen guys, you know, Chris Gotterick started Thursday morning with like 6 birdies in a row. This was just him really taking advantage, hitting a bunch of good shots, not making mistakes, which is really kind of the Harris English model of the whole thing.
You think of Harris English, who won at Torrey last year, which also has Poana greens, and he clearly knows how to putt them. And I think Poana greens requires a great putter. I think that's why you see Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, guys who are really talented, really understand how to roll the ball. You see them play so well on the West Coast because it can be a big-time separator. And what does Harris English do today? Well, he leads the field in strokes gained putting, makes 150 feet of putts for the day, and that's a huge improvement on yesterday. But he took advantage of all the opportunities he gave himself. And that's the difference. I normally don't think of Harris English as a guy who's going to go shoot 63. I think of him more as a grinder. But he reached the kind of the magic combination in this round. 6th in strokes gained approach, hitting 16 greens, and 1st in strokes gained putting. That's the birdie combination right there.
It certainly is. What was not the birdie combination is whatever Ludvig Aberg's been doing over the course of the past couple of weeks. I'm getting a shake of the head from Mark because this is something we've discussed a little bit on the show in the past. And Ludi has opened up with rounds of 75, 69. He's currently in a tie for 69th. And remember, this is only a field of 80. Mark, I was watching today, and today was his better day, and it was ugly. A lot of left misses off the tee that were not very long. A couple of short putts missed. It was kind of a disaster.
It's been ragged, man. And, you know, he was sick here recently at Torrey Pines, and that obviously played poorly there. And then everyone was sort of thinking, well, maybe the performance at the WM Phoenix Open was kind of a bit of a follow-on, a hangover from what happened with the sickness. But this year around a golf course where they were essentially defenseless the first 2 days, this is just not the Ludvig that we're all expecting to know. And that left miss you talk about, when he came out on tour, you could almost set your wristwatch on a ball cutting from him. Now, he'd hit the draw quite easily, and when he really would hit a drive hard, he'd start the draw right enough so it would play, but it was very tight. But I've started to see, as I've watched him in practice and preparation, the ball moving side to side through the air a whole lot more. So there's more curvature. And the fade that he used to hit seems to be gone. And he's had his coach, Hans Larsen, out a few times, but it just doesn't seem like they've cottoned on to whatever's going on over here. So it's, this is not a 5-bell alarm or 5-fire alarm or whatever you call it, but it's too messy, man. You can see those scorecards over there. Double bogey, bogeys mixed in there, a few birdies, and then all of a sudden, he finds some momentum with a few pars and stuff. But it's just not the guy we expect. And I'm kind of looking at the golf swing right now, because his problem is he's not like the best putter in the world. So if he's not hitting it flush, it's going to catch up with him. And we've seen that over the last few events.
It's interesting, Greg, because Ludvig, by his own great start to his career, does not have the luxury of low expectations. And when we get to these major championships, and we've already kind of talked about it earlier this year, his odds to win a major championship are like the 5th shortest in the world. And there is just this idea that his game is able to translate to any golf course in the world. And we are starting to see him play not so good golf for what feels like the most extended period of his young career.
Yes, and form is fickle, and it makes you wonder, was the run earlier in his career a hot streak or, pure talent? I think talent's a really difficult thing to judge in the game of golf, in large part because if you're long, you're talented. Those two things get convoluted so often. Anybody who can hit the ball far and has a nice looking swing is quote unquote talented. When it comes to Ludvig, he checks those boxes. He has a very nice swing and he's very long, but his game is not as complete as the Rory McIlroys and the Scottie Schefflers. The short game is less than. To Mark's point, the putting is less than at times. And so he really relies on that tee to green performance. And there's clearly something wrong with the swing when you're hitting quick hooks the way that he is. And so what happens when you start hitting the ball like that is you have to scramble, and you have to turn into a Hideki Matsuyama from last week in Phoenix in order to overcome that. And that works when the winning score is 15 under par. It doesn't work when 15 under par is the lead at the halfway mark.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, I do want to say this. Those hooks you talk about, it's funny, we played some golf this morning, and I was talking with Johnson Wagner a little bit, who's won on tour, and obviously he's an announcer with CBS now. And, he's talked about how he's gone from hitting a draw when he was playing to hitting a fade now, and it's almost like he can get out of bed and trust the fade, even if he hasn't played, because of the nature of it. And I said something that kind of caught his attention. And I mentioned, I'm like, it's not the hook shot that is the issue for the competitive golfer. It's the fear of the hook that gets more into their mindset. And for, let's say, Ludvig, for argument's sake, right? So he's setting up left center for a cut shot, and then he hooks one. Then where do you aim the next one? Because he can't aim the next one right center and then suddenly hit a fade, and then he's in the doo-doo down the right-hand side. So it takes a lot of mental gumption to be able to aim down the left-hand side and hit that cut shot when you've seen the ball turning left. Because you're unsure of, is this thing going to happen? And you make a defensive pass, and because the hook shot comes from that inside approach too much. And then you're like, well, I don't want to miss it left. So you drop the club underneath, which is kind of a little-ish. I haven't looked close enough. I want to get some footage so I can really dive into the mechanics of it. But then you get underneath one and you block a fade shot, and then you're in just as much trouble. And that's when you see those two-sided misses going on. And that when I have watched him on the range, I've seen a little bit of that two-sided action going.
And to fix that, you got to swing the way you're most afraid of it going.
You left. You got to swing to the left. Yeah.
Way more than you think, which
It's
is a
not
hard
fun.
thing to get out of.
Yeah, it's not. It becomes after a while. It's not just a physical problem because you got to be able to swing in the direction where your bad shot goes, and that's hard when there's trouble down there.
It's been Groundhog's Day for Scottie Scheffler each of the opening 2 rounds in the last 2 weeks. Another below average start for Scottie, a 72 around Pebble Beach, Greg, yesterday, with just, again, kind of a lot of sloppiness, some shots that we don't see from Scottie, but like he did just last Friday, he bounces back and he shot a 6 under 66 around Spyglass today with just 1 blemish on the card, but he did make eagle on number 7. So we're starting to see he's no longer flawless. But I imagine that by the time this tournament is over, he is going to be higher on the leaderboard than he is right now.
Yeah, I would think, Rick. History would say that's definitely the case. I believe on Golf Channel they had a graphic today that showed his last 5 events opening with even par or worse. All 5 of them ended up being top 10 finishes. I thought heading into this round today that he would need 6 under to get on track or better. I also thought the lead would be like 13 or 14. The lead's 15. So maybe he's a little bit off track of getting back into this. I think 3 rounds of 6 under for Scottie Scheffler is very doable, which puts him at 18 under par. That'll get him very high on the leaderboard, but I'm not sure that's enough. So, but the good sign is this round today, he swung the club a lot better. He looked a lot more comfortable with the driver. The finishes, considering Scottie's footwork, the finishes looked much more balanced. It looked like the ball was coming out of the window that he expected, which is a very good sign. And then all of a sudden, late in the round, a couple putts start to fall. You chip in for eagle, and there's a little hot streak going. Carrying that over to tomorrow, now you're going to Pebble Beach where you got to get those first 6. Scottie Scheffler could be 5 under through 6 very easily, and this tournament looks totally different. I mean, he could be at 12 under par before Akshay Bhatia tees off. That changes things dramatically. Mm-hmm. So he's not out of it. Getting 6 under today was a huge deal.
It's jarring, Mark, because of the again, expectations and the things that we've seen Scottie do for the last 4 years, that the worst things that we can say about him are these slow opening rounds where he still ends up being in the mix by the time Sunday comes. But a 72 yesterday had him like 68th on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and Greg makes a good point. If this was a major championship, 72 to open would be fine because scores aren't going to get away from you much. Now, if there is one extenuating circumstance here for him, it's that you're forecasting wind and rain on the weekend. And that is something, a weather change can slow down the leaders and give the chase pack a better chance. It's all about tomorrow. And Greg rightly says, if he can get out to a fast start and climb the way up the leaderboard, that does affect who you are if you're in the back packs there, because then you get off to a slowish start and all of a sudden you're realizing that Pebble Beach, the examination does stiffen as you get to 8, 9, 12, 16, 17 a little bit. So the back 9 normally offers a bigger challenge, sort of the end of the front and the back. And so you can close the gap pretty well. But what's concerning to me, and we saw this a little bit last week, because he was in feature groups coverage, so we watched, and I went and watched him play a little bit, is I've just texted his club guy. I don't know if there's been a change in irons or some shaft makeup or something, but I saw him miss it a ton of balls last week. And I saw him miss yardages continuously, really, where you'd watch him like on the par 5 15th. I remember it twice. He goes for the green with whatever club and he's posing and the ball comes up short of the green. Then he's like, what on earth's going on? So I'm wondering if this is a club setup change, or if he's just at odds with his technique a little bit. Because if there's one thing to me that separates Scottie Scheffler is the distance control with the irons. Yeah. He is premier at hitting the ball the right distance. And he's just not doing that. And I've seen more often than not where he's like wildly mishit balls, like off the tee. Like I remember a tee shot on the third hole last week, which is an 8-iron par 3 for these guys, and he's landed at 15 feet short of the 15 yards short of the green. I've just got the text back. No change. Same setup as 2025. So
He's
there's
lost his feel.
Yeah. So there's
He's
no
done.
there's no change with real time information there. So there's no change in the irons now. We get that. So there's a little something amiss where he's not feeling it with a golf swing. Where like on the weekend at WM in Phoenix, it's almost like he made rounds happen. You could see some will about him, right? And the final round, he made putts from all over the joint. And he made some that you wouldn't normally make too, from off the green on 14, for argument's sake. So it's a long road to hoe if he wants to win this thing. But he's got to start to find a little form with the irons, and then obviously get a fast start tomorrow.
I promise you, Mark, he wants to win this.
I just got a word here. He has a 7-wood that is replacing the 3-iron. Well, that doesn't affect what we're talking about much.
Damn.
So, but no change in the irons. But he's going to have to find a little groove with the iron game.
Well, I'll build the drama. The top 10 streak is on the line. T34 going into the weekend. We'll see if he can matriculate up the board. Let's get to the guys in the mix, or at least at the top of the leaderboard through 2 rounds. 2 golfers in third tied at 14 under. 2 golfers in first tied at 15 under. Let's just go, Greg, right to Scottie's good mate, Sam Burns. 63-67 on the first 2 rounds. And if you've ever seen Sam Burns play, or if you've ever looked at his stat profile, you can probably assume how he's doing this. Well, he's leading the field in strokes gained putting. He's gained over 6.5 strokes there. That's kind of his big weapon over the course of the last year or so. And Burns is now 1 shot off the lead going into the weekend.
Yep. It's a very curious case, Rick, because this is a profile that has regression written all over it. That's what you would normally think. If you just took the name off of this profile, the statistical profile, you'd say this guy's ejecting soon, very soon. But then you put the name on there, you realize it's Sam Burns, and he is the best putter on the PGA Tour, and all of a sudden it's no surprise. You also know he has prodigious distance and is a talented wedge player. His wedge play, if you look at his iron game, break it down a little farther than just your traditional strokes gained data. Can't believe I just called that traditional, Mark. But if you break that down a little farther, and his wedge play is better than his long iron play, that bodes really well for a golf course like Pebble Beach. So, I'm kind of in this position. I have no idea what Sam Burns is going to do over the weekend. I'm not concerned about driving accuracy. Being in the rough sometimes this week could be an advantage. It's very light. It reduces the spin from the fairway sometimes. So it's not a big deal if you miss fairways like he's prone to do, and keep filling it up. Question is, what happens in the weather on Sunday?
Hey, Rick, I
yes,
remember I was listening to our boy on a radio show, and I was just landed in Minneapolis, and I was listening to Greg and Michael Breed opining about the aforementioned Sam Burns. And I texted Greg, I'm like, dude, stop looking at stroke scan. Have you watched him play lately? and then I'm listening for Greg to say something on the air, but he doesn't. He's being a good, young announcer that he is. And so we talk afterwards. I'm like, Big Eye, you're looking for a lot of stuff here. I think there's something missing with him. And lo and behold, he didn't finish very well. This is refreshing for me to see out of Sam Burns, because for a while I was super high on him, and then it's just like he lost the handler stuff, and all he seemed to have is a fastball, where everything was just hit hard, and you are not going to compete on a place like this when it's receptive, which is going to be now because we're going to have more rain. If you're just stinging the thing in there at full speed with spin, because the targets are so small. So that round that he put together in 63, that speaks to maybe a little maturity in Sam Burns' game. So I don't know what the weekend holds, but I am glad to see that in a place that requires nuance like Pebble, that you can't just bludgeon it to death. A long drive helps, but you then got to hit the proper wedge. Clearly, with all those green squares there on the first round scorecard, he had something going on. So I just wanted to remind Greg of that conversation we had last year when I was.
Yeah, you were way out on him last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get it.
Well, but we were talking Ryder Cup too. I'm like, bro, there are plenty of guys that I'd put in front of Sam Burns right about now.
Yeah. Should have, in hindsight, Chris Goddard would have been a fine choice.
Bingo. Sam Burns' last victory, 2023 match play. That event doesn't exist anymore. Prior to that was the 2022 Charles Schwab, so it's been quite some time. Also starting to get up there for the man that he's tied with in third, and that is Ricky Fowler. Thanks to rounds. I got to get that drop back. I haven't needed that drop in so long. I haven't had it. I'm going to have to get that one back. 66-64 for Ricky, including a bogey on a par 5. But this has been brewing for a little bit here, Mark. We've started to see Ricky find the game at times. He's starting to put together some decent finishes. If you look at his stat profile from this week, it's very well-rounded. He's top 25 in all 4 strokes gained categories. He's top 25 in driving distance. He's 3rd in greens in regulation. He's 100% in scrambling. He has done basically everything right to get himself within 1 shot of the lead going into the weekend.
And this has been coming, and I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it again, so forgive me if I make you nauseous. But at the Memorial last year, it was before the final round, and he was in contention, and I was just chatting with him as he was hitting. And so I said to him, Ricky, do you mind if I take some footage? Because it's as good as I've seen him swing the thing. And he goes, sure. So I take the videos, I take a few of them, I put some of them up on social media, and I say there, this guy, watch, I think he's trending because of the way the club's starting to line up at the top. On the way down, the balance was there. There was lots of speed there, and he wasn't huffing and puffing to get it either. So the leverage was really working. And then after round, he plays solid after round. I bump into him. I'm like, so what are the movements? And he goes, no, Monday qualifying for the US Open tomorrow morning. It's wherever they were playing there outside of Dublin. And I remember being kind of shocked because he had been playing well that he wasn't in the field. But that then sort of spoke to the fact that here's a guy who's working hard, who doesn't really need the money, but he is into it so much that he's going to Monday qualify to get into the US Open as opposed to going, screw it. I'm a pro. I've been a pro for a while. I've won a players. I won some events. Yeah, we don't want to have to go and qualify. So it spoke to the desire and the hunger. And at this stage of someone's career, that is a big part of the mix, because if you're up for getting up and doing the hard work and going to the gym and sticking to what you're doing, that is a large part of the success. And he has been. And I'm so excited to see this because I feel like he's still on the up. I really do.
Brewing indeed. Greg, I'm looking at the finishes from last year where he had a bunch of top 20s down the stretch, including a 14th place finish at the Open. His run into the playoffs was T6, T7 before he bowed out at the BMW Championship. And he's kind of picked up right where he left off. T18 in Palm Springs, T18 in Phoenix. And this is very much in the mix to end his winless drought of 957 days.
Jeez.
That dates back to the 2023 Rocket Classic. And that year, Rick, he made a push and ended up making a Ryder Cup team. And that had a lot to do with his iron play, which got back on track in 2023. Kind of lost it in 24 and the early part of 25. It seems like it's back now. I got to tell you this story. I think you'll find it entertaining. I did the post game for Sirius XM this evening, and as I was preparing, I was doing a little research, looking at Ricky, and I'm like, wow, he 4.7 strokes approaching the green. That's pretty good. I wonder where that is in his career. So I go on your site, rickrungood.com.
Thank you.
Look it up. Figure out that it's the second best performance of his entire career, right? Since it's the second best of his career. The best was in 2010 at the Travelers. 2010, 16 years ago. So this was stellar. Well, I put that out on Twitter, and I later found out somebody commented to me. It was like, before you put these things out, you ought to check Justin Ray's Twitter feed, a half hour before he had put out the
Damn.
exact
You got
same note.
sniped on a stat tweet.
Oh man, I felt like such a fool, but that's what happens. I'm trying to figure these things out.
Listen,
but anyway,
you're in your own bubble. You're allowed to come to your own conclusions.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
come
man.
on.
Come on. Yeah,
I know. Oh, it's back.
Where did that come from?
Ricky Fowler.
Oh, I see what's going on here. Hi, Mina. Okay.
Tina. She found it.
Producer Josh came to the rescue.
Oh.
Producer Josh, mid-show, just emailed Mina the Ricky Fowler drop. She loaded it in. And who are we talking about, Mina? Who is it?
Ricky Fowler.
Oh, it's so good. Hat tip, producer Josh. Good work, Mina. Getting that in. We'll get the. Oh, now I got that at my fingertips. That's dangerous.
That is great. Oh, I think this is the first time we've talked about him on the Second Cut podcast.
It's the first time it's warranted it.
Right? Maybe last year at the Memorial when there was all the conversation about him getting in on a sponsor's invite and finishing top 10. But other than that, I don't think we have.
Well, hopefully we'll get to use that drop a lot on Sunday. He is one shot back, headed into the final 36. Two at the top, 15 under par. They both went Pebble. Then they went to Spyglass. Let's start with the man who has been top of mind and tip of tongue for the last couple of weeks. That's Ryo Hisatsune, 62-67. And Mark. This is so interesting. One, I love watching him in person because he leaves nothing in the tank. He lets it rip. The feet are flying all over the place. Looks like he's swinging as hard as possible. And now with this putting work that he's put in, he was telling Todd Lewis after his round yesterday how confident he is on the surfaces. Starting to see a couple go in goes a long way, and he's got the runner-up finish at Farmers. He's got the top 10 at Phoenix, and here we go again.
Yeah, look, it's been fun to watch him over the last few weeks, and I've been lucky to have him. It seems like every time I've been out there, I've had Ryo and Siwoo Kim. And they play sort of different games where Ryo hits this high tumbling draw, and like you say, there's no holding back. And he's looked awfully comfortable on greens that normally perplex all and sundry because the Poania gets to growing at different speeds, and so you get balls bouncing. But with good weather, the greens only become a real challenge when this Poania gets soft and you get heel prints and stuff in there. So I'm keen to see how it goes on the weekend when we get some more rain. But he is playing with so much confidence. And then this is like an intangible, but if you talk to him and you watch him, it's like he's this young kid that has realized he's playing on the PGA Tour and he's just having a ball. It's like he gets out there and he's free swinging it, and whatever happens is just a bonus. And if things don't work out for him, he's like, that's fine. I'm playing on the PGA Tour. So there's a thankfulness and an easiness about him. Like approaching him, it is glorious because he's welcoming to everybody, even though he's in the midst of work. So there's something that you can't describe, but it just looks like attitude with him, where he's put the work in. He knows he's playing well. Every swing he's made, he's like, this might be the only time I sort of play well. So he's having at it. And that opening round was spectacular. He took advantage of very nice morning conditions. I watched him play a little bit. And then 67 around Spyglass is not to be scoffed at. So once again, he's going to be in the mix. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, he'll accidentally back into a victory. It's got to be. I mean, all you can do is put yourself in contention, and he's doing that every single week.
He was fantastic at Torrey, Greg. That's, though, where kind of Justin Rose ran away from everybody. Got off to a really, really strong start in Phoenix before fading a bit on the weekend. And like Mark mentioned, he was the first-round leader, 10 under par. And now, what will he be able to take from the last 2 weeks going into this weekend to try to get across the finish line?
Look, this is very underrated when we talk about PGA Tour golf, but it is impossible to practice being in contention without getting in contention.
Yeah.
Right? You do not get to go to the range and work on what you're going to do when you have a chance to win. It doesn't work that way. You have to get there in order to earn those reps. And he's done that now, and he's done it in a very short window. And that means, you know, he doesn't have to think back to something he did in 2019 when he was probably, you know, 11 years old, because I think he's 23 now.
Yeah.
Excuse my math. But you don't have to go back very far to think about the last time you were in contention. This is fresh. It's new. And I think that goes a long way. And it's one of the reasons why you can't underestimate Ryo Hisatsune's name on this board just because he hasn't won yet. But you look at, this is what really impressed me today. Yesterday, he goes out and makes 158 feet of putts. Second in the field, his best ever strokes gained putting performance. Phenomenal stuff. But that doesn't really hold up. You know, that's the model. Like, watch out. Well, today he comes out and he finishes third in strokes gained approach and fourth in proximity. You know, he made an eagle from 222 yards where he hit it in there to 10 feet. He hit it to 4 feet from 170 yards. He hit it to 6 feet from 206 yards. You know, this is like legitimately good, high quality iron shots. And so all of a sudden, you look through 2 rounds, and now you're in this situation where that great putting performance from Thursday is banked. You know, it's in the bank. You're not leaning on the putter. You got a complete game all of a sudden. And now it's time to compete. Can I take what I've been through the last couple of weeks and build on it and develop on it and believe that I can do it? I think that's, look, this is a great tournament. There's a lot of great players, but I expect a better weekend performance from Ryo this weekend than we saw last weekend in Phoenix.
Well, he's definitely in it. We've got a couple of savvy vets in Fowler and Burns chasing him down, a bunch of names below that. But the man tied at the top is seemingly out of nowhere here, Mark, and that's Akshay Bhatia. I'm looking at his fall and his winter. He missed the cut at Sanderson. The hero, he finished 14th out of, 20 guys? He missed the cut at both the American Express and the Farmers before finding something last week, and he's carried that into this week. He's bogey free. 1 round at each one of these golf courses, 65, 64. We've kind of seen this sometimes. Guys as good as Akshay, they kind of find something and they can keep it going for a little while.
Yeah, a couple observations I have about him. I think it was Saturday last week that I had him in a trio with Gotterup and one other. And he got off to a slow start and he was sort of out of our movie a little bit. And so we weren't covering him. But then instead of kind of throwing in the towel and hanging the head, I watched him sort of drop the anchor and get gritty, sort of get blue collar about it. And he battled to the end and made a few birdies to get under par for the day. And I was just impressed at the fact that without his best stuff, he found a way to make the round sort of somewhat respectable. Because remember last week, the folks weren't running away from par very much. So getting it, 1 or 2 under on Saturday, moving day, was a big deal after being a couple over early. So I was impressed at that. And then I remember looking for him on Sunday, and I saw he had a decent finish. So I'm like, this is cool to see. And then the other thing I want to sort of notice is that when I was preparing for the Saturday round, I was there watching him hit. And, he looked pretty flush. He looked well-timed. I mean, everything was working pretty well. And he was hitting the prettiest little drawing wedges. And I've always, all the announcers, and especially me, have always been the people that say, well, this guy goes just expressly from right to left as a left-hander. He fades everything. So I'm watching this, and these little wedges are picked beautifully, and they flighted in their little left to rights, the left-handed draw. And I look at Joe Greiner, his new caddy, who's made a big, big difference. That's the other observation. And I'm like, is this for real? And he looks at me, goes, oh, yeah. He goes, he loves to draw his irons. He feels like he can control trajectory a bit better like that. So I looked out for that, and it occurred to me that this guy has more than just one shot. And he draws the irons and sort of fades the long stuff, especially the driver, to keep it in play more. And when a player's got that going on, that talks to me about face awareness to the swing path. And if you're aware of where the toe of the club is, you can control the directional element of golf shots really well. And he started doing that last week. And when it went a bit awry, he was able to dig in and save it on Saturday. So that's the thing that I'm liking about where he is right now. It's not just that he found something. It looks like he's timed well and he knows exactly where the end of the golf club is. And so as a result, he's keeping it in front of him. Hence these 2 days here where he hasn't had a bogey yet. Helps to make a few putts. And I feel like that's something he's found is going to be parlayed into some big finishes, because he showed me that he could play well even if he's not feeling it, you know.
Lots of greens, Greg. 30 out of 36 is how many he's hit this week. And on the 6 that he has missed, he's perfect, getting up and down for par. So he seems to have a fairly strong, well-rounded game working at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up the short game there, Rick, and I mean, Mark brought up the wedge play as well. These were 2 critical areas in this round. He got up and down on 2 par 5s, making, that accounted for, 1 par 5. He got up and down at 11 and up and down at 17, which is a drivable-ish par 4. But he was greenside in 1 and got up and down for birdie, chipped in for eagle on the 14th hole. And a couple of his other birdies, number 10 was a wedge shot. He hit it in there to 5 feet. Number 2 was a wedge shot. Those were both about 110 yards. He hit them to 5 feet. And his last hole of the day was 146. So maybe a pitching wedge, but a wedge nonetheless that he makes birdie on. So when you look at this, it wasn't quite as hard working as Hisatsune's round, where he's making plays from 200 yards, 175 yards. These are probably shots that Akshay feels like he should execute, and shots that he's seeing on the range and feels that he has control over these shots. So of all these players, Akshay's round felt the most repeatable to me. And that's a great sign going into the weekend. And I think it's a great sign heading into potentially very windy conditions on Sunday.
Mina, do we have the odds board? I would like to see that. Of course we do. Good job, Mina. Okay, look at this. 4 at the top. The 4 that we've showcased here are, as you can imagine, the shortest, and then there's a pretty big gap. Akshay, 3.5 to 1. Rio, 5.5, along with Ricky Fowler at 5.5. Sam Burns, 6 to 1. No other golfer in this field is shorter than 14 to 1, which is Sepp Straka. So let me ask you this here first, Greg. Is this a 4-horse race? The other question that I'm getting at is the most important question in all of Second Cut lore, and that is, of course, Mina. How far back is too far back? How far back is too far back?
Oh, jeez.
It's a tough one. So let's just run through some math here.
Okay.
If I think the target number at the end of the week is about 20 under par. It would be, I think it gets a little tougher on Sunday. So I think you're looking at something 19 to 21 under to win. So if we extrapolate that back, and Scottie Scheffler is at 6 under. So he would need basically, a couple rounds of 7 under. I think that's possible. I think it's possible for somebody to go out and shoot 63, 67. I don't know if 65 is in the cards. It'd be a great round, but I think that's possible. So I will say that the 5 unders are too far back.
Oh, notably in the 6 unders.
Damn, man. That's my guy.
Is Scottie Scheffler. Notably in the 5 unders is Justin Rose, who is Mark and Mina's
Rosie
pick.
is out.
And Victor Hovland, which is Greg's
my
pick. Yeah. Where's Russell? He's
9.
higher than that, right?
Russell's at like 9.
Ah, there we go. Okay, T17. Okay, Mark, when you look at this leaderboard, we've got vets. We've got guys that have won before. Even if Minwoo's here in the mix. Xander and Jordan Spieth are lurking. Jake Knapp is here. We've got guys that have trophies. Well, how does this thing play out?
Well, I'm getting real-time information. I just got a text from Steve Johns. He's watching the show. He's from 47 brand. There you go, Rick. And Adrian, Tommy Fleetwood and Scottie, all their club guy, just texted me again. He goes, Scottie's looking good. He's finding his game was good in preparation this week. So that's a good sign. So I've been at Pebble Beach too long to know that in maritime type climates, anything is possible. And the weather can change at the blink of an eye on a whim. So I don't feel like anyone's out here. Someone out there in that 5-6 range gets out and shoots 63 tomorrow. We've seen it being done. And sort of puts a little pressure on the leaders, then you're suddenly in the mix. And then all bets are off. Because when I was on Wyndham Clark here a couple of years ago, when we came on the air, and this was on Saturday, Wyndham was 5 under through 5, right? And then I joined him, and he birdied 6, and he birdied 7, and he parred 8 and stuff. Anyway, long story short, he 2-putts the 18th for birdie for 60. And it's not like it was easy. It was overcast and soft because it was very wet. But no one else was shooting 60. So around here, if you get off to a fast start and you keep it going, and all these guys are capable of that, you can make big inroads on the final round. Now, what they've got going for them as the chasers is there 36 holes left, because unlike Wyndham's thing, we knew the weather was coming in. It was likely to be rained out the final day. And then the final day, there's winds and stuff forecast. So that changes the whole equation entirely. So I'm loath to put a number to this, but I know that any one of these dudes are capable of shooting something low tomorrow and then getting in the mix. And when you're in the mix, anything's possible. You just have to, and I've said this before, every great round around this place is basically, it happens out of the gate. You don't play your way into low score. You get it early, and then you just build on that, and you survive a few holes.
So if Johnny Vegas, who's at 4 over, shoots 60-60, he would get to 20 under, which is right there.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Okay, maybe that's a little extreme.
That's extreme. I'm kind of with you. I'm sort of looking, Scheffler and company over there. They know what they got to do. I think the 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s. You're going to see by the time we're on the air tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern or whatever it is, that leaderboard is going to look completely different. I guarantee you.
There are 16 within 5 shots of the lead. So we'll see how this goes.
Can I, Rick? I'm sorry. Can I name my winner?
Yes.
We got it right last week.
Yes.
On Friday.
Yes.
Rory McIlroy wins.
Wow.
Okay, I could, Greg, you say some stuff that I kind of find funny. I could buy that, right? Because I was on the call for Rory last year Saturday when the weather was nasty, and he shot the prettiest, most un-Rory like 65 I've ever seen, and he parlayed that into a victory. He wasn't in the front. He made that sort of solid on the front 9, then birdied 10, and the rest he canted to the victory. So yeah, I can get on board with that statement.
22-1, and he hasn't made a damn thing this week.
Coughed up at least 4 shots so far.
All right, gentlemen, we're not done. I got to do a couple more things. So here's what happened. Our StreamYard was being weird, and the comments started to come in very late. So I have saved a couple of comments that we're going to run through very quickly. I will also mention, I'm not being paid to say this, those 47 brand hats I only wear like the cleanups. They're greatest. They're Chipotle and 47 brand are the things I'm loyal to. Mark, start with this one.
Yes.
How does one quiet the trail hand in the golf swing? Sick of slamming the face shut, asks C. Washburn.
Simple. I'll go first because I'm older than you, Greg. I'm a big one. I'm a firm believer in varying grip pressure. And if you're focusing on your grip pressure, it also kind of mitigates, wandering thoughts inside of your head. So if you want to slow down the trail hand, or for right-handers, that's the right hand, hold tighter with the last 3 fingers of your left hand. If you hold tightly with those, it will strengthen up the left arm, the lead arm, and make it very hard to over-rotate. and very hard also for the wrist to buckle down and for the right hand to overtake it. Conversely, for all you folks who struggle with a little bit of a slice, loosen those fingers and hold tightly with the 2 middle fingers on the bottom hand so you can accelerate that thing a bit. But to that question we got there from C. Washburn, whoever, what his first name is, a little tighter with your lead hand in those 3 fingers. And then you can text the second cut. Thank you very much.
Let's call him Chris. Greg, anything to add?
I think that's great advice, and it's something that I have done and experimented with in thick rough when you're also trying to prevent the face from turning over. The one thing I'd add is I'm a big believer in a passive body leads to very active hands. And so if you can activate the body rotation, it'll slow down your hand activity. So you want to get your body rotating through the shot ahead of your hands, and it will slow down the club face. Another very effective method if you're struggling flipping the face.
Alan is in Scotland. He says it's very cold. He wants to stay up and listen, but maybe he'll listen tomorrow morning. How often does a winner come from Spyglass, then 3 rounds at Pebble? I don't know that off the top of my head, but Mark knew this 2 weeks ago. So do you know the answer to this, Mark?
Nah.
No.
I would say this. Spyglass is more sheltered because of the Del Monte Forest. There's like 5 holes that are close to the water, and the rest of the holes are inside of all of the trees, those forests, those tall pine trees. Where at Pebble, there's like 9 holes on the coastline, so it gets exposed to the wind a little bit more. And I have found that if you start on Pebble and you get off to a slow start, like Scottie did, it's hard to really attack at Spyglass because it's harder and the greens are more undulating. So I would sort of favor getting to Spyglass first, like Rory did last year, having a solid day, then accelerating on Pebble. So I don't know what the history says, but I'd be more inclined to go Spyglass first, Pebble second.
Hey, Greg, first time, long time. Do you know Ryan McDermott? Have you ever seen a pro break 2 drivers in the same round? Who did that?
I saw, well, I'm certainly not a pro, but I witnessed someone with Ryan in the same group breaking a driver on the first tee shot.
Okay.
And then hit 3-wood on number 2, hit someone else's driver on number 3 and broke that one as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So this has
in anger?
No, hitting the ball, Mark.
How far in the heel did he hit the thing? Was he a good player or not?
I think he missed the heel and hit the shaft.
Okay, well, I can make say he wasn't a very good player.
Not that day. Not that day. He wasn't.
Please tell me. I mean, okay, if someone loans you their driver and you break it, you now owe them a driver.
Yeah. Yes.
Please tell me that was rectified.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was. Yeah, that was a guy. We'll call him John, who did
Because his
that.
name was John.
Call him John.
Yeah, because his name was John.
I've never heard of 2 drivers. I've seen on the call at the PGA Championship at Harding Park, Brasson break a driver that he hit in the sweet spot on the 6th hole, 6 or 7. Hit the thing in the nuts. It just ripped it down the fairway, and we just see the head hurtling off the shaft. And the next thing he showed me, the shaft had actually splintered where it went into the hosel.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So it has to happen from a pro, John.
Yeah.
Goddard's tee shot on 10 got caught in one of those trees. And the big thing about this that looks funny, Mark, is that he has to identify it. So when he whipped out, he got behind the big camera, like he was a cameraman.
Yeah.
And they shoot it up there to see if he could identify it. Couldn't do it. So he had to go back and play another first shot of the day. Off 10. He's got to go back, and he ends up making double.
Yeah, that's one of the sucky things about a lot of these trees that are dense. That if you do hit the ball in there, sometimes the ball sticks up there. So you'll see the same thing at a place like Durrell with those palm trees. If you hit the thing up in the palm fronts, because sometimes it stays there.
Patrick Reed did that.
For the folks that don't know, if you can identify that is your ball, then you can take like a penalty relief. But if you can't, it's played as a lost ball, and so that's how the whole thing works. And way back in the day, I've seen Nick Felder climb up a tree and play one. I've seen Bernard Langer do it. So
Sergio.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes people will, but with these trees, they're kind of spiny and spiky, so they're hard to get up there too.
Also, the greatest identifier in the world is Patrick Reed, who successfully identified his own golf ball in the wrong tree and was able to get relief at Doral, I believe it was at. So best identifier.
I want to see him throw a shoe at it or something,
Yeah,
like the days at the playground.
Well, yeah, I've seen that countless times when the entire gallery is involved and people are just chucking stuff at the tree.
Then all the shoes are stuck in the tree.
Right.
Water bottles, beer bottles. Guys, I've seen players throw umbrellas and stuff to try and dislodge the ball. Yeah. I've actually seen a club get stuck in a tree after a player threw it up there to try and get the ball knocked out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Now you got to climb it.
Yeah.
Two more. Is there a possibility round 4 could get cut short due to weather? I'm assuming. I actually don't assume this, but Greg, I'll harken back to 2 years ago. If John is trying to bet this, if John is trying to make a quick buck on this, you have to do it before the round finishes. If you wait until the round is over and you put money down on whoever is in the lead and they do not play the final round, that will not be paid out. But if you do it while they're walking up to the 18th green, they will pay it out.
You took advantage of that, I believe.
Easy. I mean, arguably the best bet I've ever made. It was completely a winner with no sweat whatsoever. No more golf being played.
I would wait on that until tomorrow.
Yes, of course.
Like Rick did it with 2 holes to go.
Yeah.
I'd wait and see because I don't think that's going to happen. So, I wouldn't be looking for a freebie right now.
No,
But I think there's a strong likelihood they play Sunday.
Here you go, Mark. So threesomes off split tees tomorrow. The last tee time is 10:45. So you're going on there earlier than 3 o'clock.
No, we'll still. Well, we hadn't heard anything to the contrary. It'll still be 3 to 6. We may just record stuff.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. But I think with everything that we know, they're going to finish this.
Oh yeah, no. I'm pretty confident we're going to finish. I looked at the people. I'm like, I've got a flight to catch on Sunday night. I don't want to stay here until Monday. As much as what our accommodations are incredible, no, we need to get done Sunday night.
All right. Last one. Greg still needs to name a Bad Bunny song, and you can't avoid this one because you're gonna have to reap the You have to reap this when you open up that office door and walk out and you have not named a Bad Bunny song.
Yeah, I still can't name one.
Oh, yes, you can.
No, I can't. I listened to and that I really didn't even know. We joked about this on Super Bowl Sunday. I didn't even know that nothing would be in English.
Yeah, he sings in Spanish.
I didn't know he was a purely Spanish singer. I had no idea. I was so caught off guard by that. But if you know anything about me, music is not my forte. And Spanish music is, even more not my forte.
Hey, Greg is the guy who walked into Trader Joe's, did a half a lap, and was like so offended he couldn't even continue the shopping process.
I walked out with nothing.
Because it was like too foreign for him.
I thought I was going to get stopped by security.
Hey, Greg. Well, you don't. Well, if music's not your forte, you know who Tay Tay is, of course, right? Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because my wife right here is a huge Swiftie, so I know all those songs nearly by heart.
Yes.
Well, my daughters are Swifties, and word is that she was on the premises today, huh?
Well, her fiance was.
I
he
heard,
went.
and I don't know if this is true or not, I heard that they had an influx of ticket sales
She was there.
Travis Kelce, when people realized, thought that she might be out. Could you imagine her just out walking around? She would be mobbed. She's not gonna walk around like outside on the golf course.
Well, we were talking about this. We need like Victor Hovland to date. Someone like Taylor Swift. Not that there are many.
Well, remember our previous compadre on the show, Patrick McDonald.
Yeah.
I kept on lobbying for him to date Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
So you gentlemen see who he is actually involved with right now.
Yes. Are we allowed to say that out loud?
I don't know. Should we? Do we?
I don't know because Mina's telling me no, but she hard launched him on Instagram.
Out on social. I know.
Yeah.
I texted Patrick. I'm like, is there something I need to know? And then I texted her. I'm like, nice picture. Do you want to tell me something?
Do you know who this is, Greg?
No, I have no idea.
You are.
You
out
can
of
tell
the
me
loop on
off air.
everything.
I am
Yeah,
out,
we'll
way
tell you
out of the
off
loop.
air. So Patrick shoots back quickly too, because he was obviously paying attention. He goes, "Well, you were wanting me to date Sabrina, but I think she's cute, and I think I'm like this. This is you guys make a nice couple. I'm looking, but I'm supposed to go to Charleston in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to go and quiz him face to face to see what's going on."
All right.
Big boys running hot.
Big boys running hot.
He
As
is.
always, big boys running hot. Okay. Pleasure, gentlemen. We'll do it again on Sunday, presuming we have a champion. But for now, I'm gonna let
Ricky
everybody
Fowler.
get back to their evenings. Ricky Fowler. Big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. Mark Immelman, Greg DuCharme. I'm Rick Gehman. This is The Second Cut. We'll see you Sunday night.